Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
Today we're
Jumping right into.
we're diving into the world of online B2B marketplaces, and
It's a big one.
it is a big one.
Huge, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we've compiled some pretty interesting insights from various sources, and
Some really fascinating stuff.
yeah, and we want to think of this as, giving you a shortcut to understanding this significant area of e-commerce.
Yeah, cutting through the noise.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be exploring, just what are these platforms? How much are they growing?
Which is a lot.
Right. And just that initial thinking of, if you were going to build one yourself, where would you even start?
That first step. Right.
Yeah. And we really want to focus on, not getting too technical. Just, those first steps, that foundational thinking, almost like we're just having a conversation.
Like we're brainstorming together.
Exactly.
I like it.
So to kick things off, let's just clarify what we're talking about here.
Yeah, what exactly is a B2B marketplace?
Right. So basically, in simple terms, an online B2B marketplace. It's a digital platform.
Just a place online.
Right. Where businesses can buy and sell from each other.
Streamlining that whole process.
Exactly. And it's all about making procurement more efficient, fostering, collaboration between businesses, and really just expanding those networks.
And the reach. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're no longer limited by geography.
It's global.
Exactly.
And, speaking of global, let's talk about the size of this market.
Oh, it's massive.
Huge.
It's massive. I mean, in 2023 alone, the B2B e-commerce market reached a staggering $18.66 trillion.
Yeah, that number's hard to even wrap your head around.
Trillions with a T.
With a T. And it's projected to just keep growing at an annual rate of over 18% until 2030.
The potential is incredible.
It is. So if you're listening to this and thinking, wow, that's a huge number, where would I even begin?
Yeah, it can feel a little overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's precisely why we're having this conversation. Focusing on those initial steps, those foundational pieces of planning and research.
Breaking it down.
Right, without getting bogged down in the technical details.
The nitty-gritty.
Exactly. So let's jump into those first steps. Our sources really emphasize the importance of internal reflection, even before you start doing market research.
Yeah, that initial ideation phase, just thinking about what you want this platform to be.
Right, like what type of business are you envisioning?
Yeah, the scope.
What size are we talking? What specific products or services will be traded on this platform?
And who are you targeting?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who is your ideal customer?
Where are they?
And where are they located?
All those basic questions.
Right, because this initial direction setting, even before you get into the detailed analysis,
It acts as a guide.
it does. It's your roadmap.
And it's interesting, the sources actually indicated that B2B startups who really focused on this initial planning phase, they saw much faster growth. Yeah, something like 70% faster.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. It shows you the power of that early thinking.
Absolutely. So once you've done some of that brainstorming and you've got, some ideas flowing.
You got those initial questions.
Yeah, then it's time to dive into research.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
It does, because research is all about validating those initial hunches.
And it's more than just hunches. It's validating your strategic direction.
Yeah, understanding the market landscape.
And really seeing, where this industry is headed.
Exactly. And it's all about using credible sources, finding real-world insights.
And digging into that data.
Yeah, and our sources highlighted some really valuable resources for this.
Oh, yeah, some great ones.
Yeah, so for understanding market trends, and the customer experience.
Don't forget, in B2B, your customer is another business.
Right, they have their own unique needs.
And Forrester Research is great for that.
Absolutely. And then for those strategic insights, understanding digital transformation, McKinsey & Company.
They've got some great stuff on that.
They do. And then for the latest stats, those up-to-the-minute e-commerce and digital marketing numbers, eMarketer.
Always good for visual representations, too.
Yeah, those infographics are really helpful.
And then finally, for just a massive amount of industrial data, including e-commerce, Statista.
Yeah, they aggregate data from so many sources.
It's quite comprehensive.
It is. And it's important to remember that research isn't just a one-time thing.
It's ongoing.
Exactly. It's a continuous process of reinforcing your decisions.
And making sure you're on the right track.
Absolutely. So you've done some internal thinking. Your research is looking good. What's the next crucial step?
Well, before you even start thinking about software developers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our sources emphasize the importance of creating a detailed customer journey map.
Interesting. So mapping out the customer's entire experience.
From the moment they first interact with your platform
to the very end.
to the very end.
And why is this so important?
Well, it's all about understanding your customer's journey, anticipating their needs.
And in the B2B world specifically, They recommend using a service blueprint.
Right, because B2B transactions, they can be more complex,
They are?
often involving multiple stakeholders, internal approvals,
Yeah, specific requirements.
and a service blueprint. It visually maps out that entire process.
So you can see where the bottlenecks might be.
Exactly, and streamline things,
And it also maps out the touch points across different departments.
both within the buyer's organization and potentially your own.
Right, ensuring a consistent experience.
Yeah, no matter who they're interacting with.
And it also helps you identify any internal processes that might be causing friction.
From that initial inquiry to order fulfillment,
Yeah, so you can address those proactively.
make things smooth and efficient.
Absolutely. So now you've got this clear customer journey map. You're starting to think about the platform itself,
The website?
the website, and our sources touch on the different approaches to website development.
Yeah, there are a lot of options out there.
There are, both traditional and modern.
And it's interesting to see how things have evolved.
They have, traditional architectures like layered or client-server. They serve their purpose,
They did, but now we're seeing a real shift towards modern approaches.
like headless architecture, microservices.
Composable commerce.
Right, and there's a reason for that.
Customers are demanding more.
They are. They want flexibility. They want a smooth experience.
And these modern approaches can deliver.
Exactly. For example, with headless architecture, you separate the front end from the back end.
What the user sees from the functionality.
Right, and that allows for more customization.
And these modern methods also offer better scalability.
So you can handle those fluctuating demands.
Exactly. And they integrate more easily with existing systems.
Yeah, and cloud services.
It's all about flexibility and agility.
Absolutely. So you've got your plan. You've got an idea of the platform.
Now you need vendors.
Right. The businesses that will actually be transacting on your marketplace.
And finding the right vendors, it's crucial.
It is. It goes beyond just networking.
It does. You need to be proactive.
Absolutely. And thankfully, there's some great resources out there.
Oh, yeah. Tons of them.
So for online marketplaces, you've got ThomasNet.
Great starting point.
And then for B2B directories, there's Compass and Makers Row.
Searchable databases, very handy.
And don't forget about industry-specific associations.
Like the American Apparel and Footwear Association.
Or the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors.
They often have member directories.
And then you have wholesale and distribution networks like DOBA and Wholesale Central.
Providing access to a wide range of suppliers.
Right. And even online communities can be valuable.
LinkedIn groups, subreddits.
You never know where you'll find a connection.
And then there's specialized platforms.
Like Sourcing Box and TradeGecko.
Designed specifically for vendor sourcing.
It's all about being resourceful.
Absolutely. And as your platform grows, you'll likely find that vendors start reaching out to you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it becomes more organic.
So you've got your vision, you're thinking about vendors. How do you know if it's actually working?
That's where tracking key performance indicators, your KPIs, and monitoring your metrics comes in.
And our sources really emphasize the distinction between the two.
Yeah, they're not the same thing.
They're not, and it's important to understand the difference.
So KPIs, they're strategic.
They're tied to your overall business goals.
They help you evaluate long-term progress.
Right, like the overall health of your platform.
Metrics, on the other hand, they're more operational.
They measure performance over shorter time frames.
And they often feed into those bigger KPIs.
Okay, so give me some examples of KPIs.
Sure. So gross merchandise value, or GMV, that's the total value of everything sold through your platform.
Makes sense.
Average order value, or AOV, that's the average amount spent per transaction.
Okay, and conversion rate.
Yeah, that's the percentage of visitors who actually become paying customers.
All right, and what about customer lifetime value?
That's CLV, and it's the total revenue you expect to make from a single customer over their entire time on your platform.
Interesting. And how about customer acquisition cost?
That's CIC, and it's the cost of getting a new customer onto your platform.
All right, and then there's churn rate.
Right. That's the percentage of customers who stop using your platform.
Over a given period, okay? And order fulfillment rate.
How efficiently you're processing and delivering those orders.
Makes sense. And then there's Net Promoter Score.
NPS, a measure of customer loyalty and satisfaction.
So those are KPIs. What about metrics?
So metrics are things like where your website traffic is coming from.
Okay, like the sources.
Right. And bounce rate, that's how many people leave a page without interacting.
And return rate, that's how many products are being sent back.
Exactly. And your sales growth rate, month over month, year over year.
And inventory turnover, how quickly your stock is moving.
Email, open, and click-through rates. How engaging are your campaigns?
And profit margins, how much you're actually making.
Those are all metrics.
And it's not just about collecting this data,
Yeah,
right?
it's about using it,
Analyzing it.
making decisions.
And our sources say that businesses that actively track and analyze these KPIs, they're 50% more likely to see improved performance.
And achieve that long-term growth.
Exactly. It gives you the insights you need to make informed decisions.
And the cool thing is all that data, all those insights from your KPIs and metrics, they should be driving further improvements to your platform.
It's a continuous cycle.
Measure, analyze, improve, repeat.
And our material highlights that companies who use data to make those improvements, they see much happier customers.
60% more happy and loyal customers.
That's huge.
It's all about creating that optimal experience for both vendors and buyers.
So let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today.
All right, rapid fire.
So we talked about online B2B marketplaces, their incredible growth.
Remember that $18.66 trillion figure?
Yeah, and the importance of those initial steps, the internal thinking.
Defining your vision.
The research, using resources like Forrester, McKinsey, eMarketer, and Statista.
All those great sources.
And then mapping out that customer journey.
Using a service blueprint for B2B.
And then the different approaches to website development.
Traditional versus modern.
And the importance of sourcing those vendors.
Finding the right partners.
And finally, the crucial role of tracking KPIs and metrics.
For continuous improvement.
So as we wrap up today, consider this.
Oh, food for thought.
The B2B e-commerce landscape is evolving rapidly.
It's dynamic.
And by understanding these foundational elements,
The things we've talked about today.
you're not just observing this growth.
You're positioned to shape it.
So what idea do you have that could potentially tap into this dynamic market?
Think about it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.